Why is the Nigerian government silent, some say deliberately silent, as Christian villages burn across the Middle Belt? Why do the killings continue year after year with terrifying precision, yet officials in Abuja speak as if nothing unusual is happening? Why has the international community, powerful nations, global institutions, human rights organizations, chosen to watch quietly from the sidelines? These are the questions that echo through the valleys of Kaduna, the hills of Plateau, the riverbanks of Benue. Questions whispered by widows in makeshift tents. Questions cried by children who no longer remember what home looked like. This narrative follows those questions, uncomfortable questions, dangerous questions, questions that many insist must finally be faced. The land of vanishing villages. It begins in the darkness of night. In village after village, survivors tell the same story. The sound of motorcycles approaching, gunmen moving with practiced efficiency, homes engulfed in flames before anyone can fully understand what is happening. Some speak of attackers carrying assault rifles too advanced for ordinary bandits. Others describe the speed, the certainty, the way the violence seems planned, not random. Across southern Kaduna, the farmlands of Benue, the rolling hills of Plateau, the pattern repeats. Communities with long Christian histories find themselves overwhelmed by forces they cannot identify, cannot outrun, cannot stop. To them, this is not farmer-herder conflict. It is not land competition. It is not banditry. To them, this is persecution, relentless, targeted, devastating. And what hurts even more is their belief that the Nigerian government knows it and refuses to say it. The official silence. Critics point to what they call a consistent pattern of denial. When dozens are killed, statements do not condemn the killers. They condemn the tensions. When churches are burned, officials do not acknowledge religious motives. They blame criminal elements. When entire communities flee, ministers say the situation is under investigation, though weeks pass with no updates. To many survivors, it feels like the government is trying to make the violence sound cleaner, smaller, less religious, less political, as if calling it by its true name would open a door the country's leadership does not want opened. They ask, why do the authorities always arrive hours late? Why are arrests so rare? Why do the attackers seem unstoppable, untouchable, untraceable? Some villagers go even further, insisting that the silence from the top is not accidental. They believe political sensitivities, ethnic loyalties, and fears of embarrassing powerful northern blocs keep the government quiet. Whether true or not, the distrust grows. The world watches. And then there is the international community. For many Nigerian Christians, the silence from global powers stings as deeply as the silence from Abuja. How can mass displacement, millions of people uprooted, be met with little more than cautious press releases? How can mass graves go unacknowledged on the world stage? How can nations that respond instantly to crises elsewhere hesitate to confront one unfolding in Africa's most populous country? Critics argue that the world values Nigeria's oil, Nigeria's military partnerships, Nigeria's economic potential far more than Nigeria's vulnerable communities. Diplomats have rhetoric, survivors have graves. The moment Donald Trump entered the conversation, then suddenly a voice outside Nigeria broke the silence. Loud, controversial, polarizing, impossible to ignore. Former US President Donald trolled the killings what many villagers had long been calling them, a massacre of Christians, an existential threat to Christianity, a crisis the world refuses to name. Trump warned that Christians are being killed in very large numbers. The Nigerian government is allowing these killings. The US might cut aid or even intervene militarily. Nigeria may be facing a genocide in slow motion. For Christian communities in Nigeria, Trump's words felt like recognition at last, validation that their suffering was not invisible. For Nigerian officials, it felt like an accusation, sharp, direct, impossible to ignore. For the world, it became a moment of reckoning. Was this crisis far more serious than global leaders had admitted? The human story beneath the politics. But beyond the politics, beyond Trump's warnings, beyond the silence and denial, there are the people. Mothers searching the ashes of their homes for anything that survived. Fathers carrying their children's bodies to hurried burials. Pastors preaching to half-empty churches because the other half of the congregation is gone. Children drawing pictures of burning houses because that is their only memory of childhood. For them, the debates mean little. The labels, farmer-herder conflict, banditry, communal tension mean even less. They know only what they live: fear, loss, displacement, silence. They ask the world one last question. If this is not persecution, then what is it? This narrative does not claim to settle the debate. It does not claim to provide the final answer. But it follows the voices of those who believe they are being targeted, voices that refuse to be quiet, voices that insist the world must finally listen, voices rising from the ashes of forgotten villages. And as long as those villages continue to burn, the questions will not disappear. They will only grow louder.